Will come to order. Clerk will read the roll.
Freeman, Fusco, Hope, Kamer, Key, Kilby, Milkovich, Neal, Amobian, Somerville, Samples, Sims, Somerville, Swirsky.
For those who voluntarily wish to do so, will you please stand as we are led in prayer by Pastor Rocco Wellington from Bread of Life Church. He's the senior pastor there. Immediately following the prayer, we'll be led in the Pledge of Allegiance. Going to ask if Councilwoman Amobian can do that for us.
Our heads are bowed, please. Dear Father, we thank you for everyone gathered here now. Thank you that you know each of us by name and have caused us to walk with you. We say that we are dependent on you and our trust is in you completely. As we surrender ourselves to adoration, we ask that you would send your Holy Spirit and inspire our hearts today. Come fill our lives with your love, fill our conversation with your grace and truth, fill this meeting with your presence. We ask this for your glory and praise in the name of your Son. Amen. Amen.
Clerk will read the minutes from our previously held meeting.
Minutes from April 23rd, 2018. Council convened a regular session at 7 p.m. with President Somerville and the chair. Minutes of the previous regular meeting were approved. All members were present, except Sims, later excused. Reading of petitions and communications. Passage of the consent agenda. Report of standing and special committees. Passage and referral of new ordinances and resolution, representation from various departments and divisions, public speaking period. No further business on a motion by Fusco. Council adjourned at 7:52 p.m. to reconvene a regular session on April 30th or special call.
Any corrections or additions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? I think we had one abstention.
Was there? Who's the
Sims.
Okay. Okay.
Letters, petitions, and communications.
Number one objection to the 2018 unimproved street resurfacing program per resolution number 97, 2018.
File.
One letter objecting to the 2018 residential resurfacing per resolution 98, 2018.
File.
Income tax receipts through the end of March 2018.
File.
Executive financial report for the first quarter of 2018.
File. We have before us the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I think we have one abstention. Sims.
Who's that?
Sims.
Okay.
We'll now move into our old business rules. Councilwoman Keith.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee would like time.
Time will be granted. Planning, Councilman Fusco.
Time on the agenda.
Time will be granted. Public Service, Councilwoman Keith.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee would like time.
Time will be granted. We'll now move into our new business. Planning.
Okay. Item number one, offered by Fusco. Ordinance authorizing conditional use to install signage exceeding zoning code requirements at 1650 Diagonal Road and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
For an advertise for public hearing on May 7th.
This item will be referred.
Item number 2, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing conditional use to establish a training and research center at 815 to 833 Carroll Street.
Councilman Fusco.
For an advertise for public hearing on May 7th.
Item will be referred.
Item number 3, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing conditional use to establish equipment rental business and to construct a new building at 1081 Eastwood Avenue and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
And for an advertise for public hearing on May 7th.
Item will be referred.
Item number 4, offered by Fusco, ordinance amending and or supplementing Title 15, Chapter 153 of the Zoning Code, Section 153.140, definitions, and Section 153.310, business and industry requirements, creating an urban overlay area and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
For an advertise for public hearing on May 14th.
Item will be referred.
Item number 5, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing conditional use to retain a solid fence at 1522 Malaysia Road and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
For an advertise for public hearing on May 14th.
Item will be referred.
Item number 6, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing conditional use to establish a child daycare center, business center at 2196 Eastgate Commons Drive and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
For an advertise for public hearing on May 14th.
Item will be referred.
Okay, item number 7, offered by Keith, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service to enter into contracts using Community University Education Purchasing Association CUE bid, National Point Joint Powers Association bids, or the State of Ohio bids, or after publicly advertising for bids, for the purchase and or lease of various vehicles and equipment and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Keith.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee would like this placed on the consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Okay, item number 8. Ordinance, offered by Keith, ordinance number 8, ordinance authorizing the purchasing agent, after publicly advertising for bids, to enter into a contract for the replacement of the shingle roof at the Kenmore Community Center and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Keith.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee would also like this one to be placed on the consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 9, offered by Keith, ordinance authorizing the mayor and or the director of public service to enter into an agreement or agreements with neighboring communities and or the county of Summit for participation and cost of sharing the 2018 resurfacing program and the 2018 construction seal and crack filling program in order to improve the roadways in split jurisdictions and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Keith.
Thank you, Madam President. Once again, the committee would like this item placed on the consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 10, offered by Keith, ordinance determining to proceed with the improvements of Canton Road between the termini of Wedgewood Drive and the southern corporate limit, and between the termini of East Market Street and State Route 76 by resurfacing and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Keith.
The committee would also like this particular item to be placed on the consent agenda.
Thank you. This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Okay, item number 11, offered by Sample, ordinance authorizing the mayor to apply for and enter into agreements with the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency for funding for the Eastwood Pump Replacement Project and the 2018 Annual Water Main Construction Program, designating the mayor and others as authorized representatives for the loan applications and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Samples.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee asks that this item be placed on the consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Okay, item number 12, offered by Kamer, ordinance authorizing the mayor to apply for and, if awarded, accept a Violence Against Women Act grant administered by the Office of the Criminal Justice Services, authorizing the Director of Law to enter into an agreement with Orienta House Incorporated to implement the grant by continuing to fund 2 investigators for the Domestic Violence Unit and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer?
Thank you. Committee's report is to place this item on consent agenda, please.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Okay, item number 13, offered by Swirsky. Ordinance authorizing the purchasing agent, after publicly advertising for bids, to enter into a contract for the purchase of 16 LED high-mast light fixtures and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Swirsky?
Consent agenda, please.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda. We will now go to the portion of our meeting that we refer to as our public comment period. If you wish to speak to this council during this time, you may approach the podium. We're going to ask that you please sign in, then state your full name, spell your last name, and give us your address. You will have 3 minutes to speak to this body. Speakers are reminded this is an official meeting. Remarks should be respectful and germane to council business. Speakers should refrain from making any personal attacks. Anyone who breaches decorum will be ruled out of order and may be removed from council chambers. Is there anyone here on tonight that would like to speak during our public comment period?
Hello, my name is Lamont Robert Porter. Address is 1232 Bellflower Road. Last name is Porter. I rose today to talk to you all about ICF forms and how it can impact our housing industry. Last week I sent around a piece of paper that explained to you the life of a wood structure home and then an ICF concrete home. We know with fire and wind that a wooden home will not withstand that. There's a 2-inch piece of insulation followed by 8 inches of concrete and then another 2-inch piece of insulation. And if you go to the conference room right here in the hall, you can see the demonstration. I definitely think that is what we're going to be using in the future with net zero homes, with First Energy and the way things are going. We need an electric home where your electric bill will be as much as a tank of gas a month. So those are the things that I have brought today. If you would like to ask questions or see the demonstration, it's in the next conference room. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Porter.
Cynthia Bell, 123 Mustell Street. I'm one of the residents down where the tunneling is occurring, down around Border Street, representing some of the neighborhood people who are experiencing some damage to our homes and wondering where we stand with some repairs to, or assistance with the repairs to our homes. It's not that we want to leave our neighborhood, we love our neighborhood, we want to stay there. And we're looking for some guidance and some assistance. In addition, there's been some items dumped in the field behind my house by Kenmore Construction. I'm questioning what the responsibility of that construction company, EPA, in terms of what toxic products have been are being emanated from the pounding, grounding, moving, whatever they're doing down there. We still have children there. Respiratory issues are a concern. And so I'd like some feedback from whoever's involved and can assist us.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Bell.
Hello, I'm Daika Megerly. I also am a resident. I live next door to my mother at 119 Mustell Street. I also have concerns regarding the construction that is taking place. Our homes are 105 plus years old. Prior to the construction, the damage that we experience now was not there. Prior to the trees being dropped, the construction barrels being landed in our backyard. So we do have a lot of concerns in regards to how the city can assist us in regards to that, what your thoughts are, how long this project will take place, what your expectations are for us as residents there, and we'd like to have an open dialogue as to what our expectations are with you all as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Danica. And just to Danica and Cynthia, I apologize. There's no one here at this moment, but we'll make sure after the meeting, if you stick around, we'll get you in contact with someone who'll be able to answer all of your questions and concerns, okay?
My name is Mike Reitenbach. My last name is spelled Reitenbach. I live on 993 Inman Street. I am here today to talk about, I'm a beekeeper, and I have 2 apiaries in my backyard, and I was told I needed a permit. this was last fall. The animal control came out along with the health department. When I looked for the permit online, I couldn't find it. I called the animal control, and they sent me to the health department. They sent me to the law director. The law director said I was the first person to ever need a permit in the city of Akron. So he said he was going to draft a new permit, and he would get back to me. Well, he never got back to me. And this was all stemmed from a complaint by a neighbor, so their dog got stung. Well, last week I got another notice on my door saying I have to have a permit. What I'd like the council to do is make that permit, if there is one, more accessible. You know, put it on the website somewhere where you could find it, you know. And I'd like the council to look at the ordinance too, because the ordinance, I'm trying to comply with everything they're telling me to do. The very end of the ordinance, it says if it disturbs the tranquility and the peace of the neighborhood, it's a nuisance. Well, in Akron, all you have to do is say anything's a nuisance, and they're going to tell you to stop. So if you could look into that, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Hello, everybody. My name is Don Harris, Harris, 276 Cuyahoga Street. Yeah, I want to piggyback off the ladies. Some of the construction work. I personally haven't had a good night's sleep in about 3 years. You know, because of the pounding and earth moving material that's been moved back there. I'm concerned about the grandkids that come over. With the environment, the dust. You know, when I wash a car, the next day it's dirty again. Cracks in our home, in the kitchen. Foundations, pretty good foundation we have, but I can tell this is breaking down through the earth moving material. And the concerns about, I've heard that in December that they're going to come to some type of resolution on either we're going to bid on our house or they're going to, offer us a settlement on our house, something to that nature. Concerned about that, because we've been there, well, I've been there 7 years, my wife's been there 11, and just to move and to another city or another place of Akron, concerns us very dearly. So I'm like the ladies up front, want to know how this can be resolved in a good nature. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Harrison. Again, if you two will be able to just stay a few moments after the meeting.
My name is Steve Nome, N-O-M-E. My address, 1928 6th Street, Cuyahoga Falls. Going to go a little different route tonight. I wonder if any of you have ever seen the movie Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. It's a story of a naive and idealistic Jefferson Smith, who's played by James Stewart. He's leader of the Boy Rangers. He's appointed by the governor of his state to fill a vacancy in the Senate. In Washington, he becomes aware of the shortcomings of the political process as his earnest goal of a national boys' camp leads to conflict with the state political boss, who first tries to corrupt him and then later attempts to destroy him through a scandal. One of the big scenes, he carries on a filibuster for over 23 hours, and then finally he gets a lot of negative responses because of the corrupt political system working against him. And he feels exhausted, utterly defeated. He tries to continue his filibuster. He ends up fainting. Well, I can identify with this movie. I think I'm perhaps a little naive and idealistic because I've been coming to these council meetings for months, speaking on behalf of myself, my wife, and the 200-plus retiree couples who have lost affordable health care based upon the city's misinterpretation of the Blue Ribbon Task Force report and arbitrary conditions or decisions not supported by facts. Now, I've pointed out deficiencies in the city's plan to remedy their financial problems by depriving retiree spouses, and the arbitrator has ruled against the city, and yet the city has yet to take any action to correct the injustice to retirees and work towards an equitable solution. I recently heard the quote, "Justice delayed is justice denied." It is a legal maxim, meaning that if legal redress is available for a party that has suffered some injury but is not forthcoming in a timely fashion, it is effectively the same as having no redress at all. Now, it's exhausting to come to council meetings and seemingly get nowhere, but I will be back until I get an answer, till the city does the right thing. And I'm working the polls next week for the election, so you might not see me next Monday. It's not because I don't want to be here, but I have a conflict, and I have to serve the polling system first. So you may miss me next week, but I'll be there the week after, and I really would like an answer that makes this whole thing work out. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Noel.
Hello, my name is Mr. Caldwell, C-A-L-D-W-E-L-L. I've been staying on 286 Carter Street for since 2006 with family, but recently family moved out. You know, this January, this new year, the foundation of my basement gave, but it's fortunate I had some railroad ties and ladders, so it didn't touch the furnace. But I'm at a dilemma. The gas company needs to come and service their meter, and I need to clear it so they can get in. And right now, I'm unable to do so. Every time it rains, the mud keeps coming in. So what I want to know is, what kind of remedies can I expect, and who to get in contact with about it? Because I've been trying to contact Kenmore Construction, and they told me to come down here. So I'm here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Caldwell. And again, if you'll just share a few minutes after the meeting, we'll be able to get you your answers, your questions answered, okay? Is there anyone else here wishing to speak during our public comment period? Anyone else wishing to speak during public comment period? Okay, seeing none, we'll close our public comment period and go into our committee assignments. Rules, Councilman Keith.
2:30.
Budget and Finance, Councilman Keith.
3 o'clock.
Planning, Councilman Fusco.
1:30.
Public Service, Councilwoman Keith. Public Utilities, Councilman Samples. Public Safety, Councilman Kamer. Parks and Rec, Councilman Neal. Housing, Councilman Kilby. Health and Social Services, Councilwoman Amobian. Economic Development, Councilwoman Sims. Green Committee, Councilman Swirsky.
On.
Very good. Is there anything else coming before our council? Is there a second? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Anything else coming before council? Councilwoman Sims?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say last week I had the privilege to travel with a coalition of folks to Chattanooga, Tennessee. Chattanooga is kind of similar in size to Akron, and they are believed to be experiencing what some call a renaissance. So many of the concerns that they have relative to stemming the brain drain and economic development are very similar. And so I really learned a lot, and I'm pleased to say that on some levels, the Akron is a little ahead of them. You know, one time they were known as, I guess, the dirtiest city in the country because of their industry that caused a lot of pollutants. But they are experiencing some prosperity, and I saw some really great ideals for Akron, and I look forward to seeing some of those things come to fruition here, particularly around small business development and entrepreneurialism. And one of the things I think that was most striking for me and really excited me, so often in these rebirths in cities, there's like almost a second thought about neighborhoods. It was nice to see that they were thinking along those lines to make sure that in the development that neighborhoods don't get left out. And I think that's something that we really talked about here. So I think there's some things that we can glean that we learned in Chattanooga that we can use here. So thank you for those who excused me.
Thank you, and thank you so much for sharing, Councilman Sims. Anything else coming before council? Before we adjourn, just a couple quick announcements. Just a reminder to all of council that on next Monday at 5 o'clock, we will caucus. We will caucus on the topic of My Neighborhood, My Akron grant program. That's next Monday at 5 o'clock. Also, another reminder that on this Saturday, the Blue Heron Homecoming, this Saturday at 10 o'clock, so just a reminder for that as well. And also, if just those individuals who have some issues with the CSO project on Kaga and Inman, if you'll stay after, Mr. Somerville and Mr. Greger will address some of your questions and concerns, okay? We have a motion for adjournment. Is there a second? Oh, yes, Councilwoman Sims?
Madam President, there's a town hall meeting tomorrow at the library for some young folks who have really come together to talk about some issues that concern them that I think that really concern us too. So that begins at 6 o'clock tomorrow. We'll run to 8 o'clock. So I would encourage those who can attend to let our young folks know we see them and we hear them and to try and show up to engage. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have a motion on the floor for adjournment. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. The ayes have it.